Hi everybody and welcome to the Betway British and Irish Lions in conjunction with SA Rugby Magazine. I've got Scott Gibbs. Scott, welcome again. And Mark Keohane. Mark, you predicted a 3-0 victory for the Lions in this tour. Scott, you're a bit more circumspect and maybe applied a bit more science to it. We've got a body of work to look at now. We've got the Georgia versus the Boks. Let's chat about that first and what we can take away from that.
Well, you know, it was a not ideal competition for the Boks, but literally there's not much choice from an international fixture perspective, so a good run out. What we disseminate from it, I don't know. I mean, listen, given the fact that the Boks have been together for 5 weeks, I was expecting more of a fluid, cohesive type of performance, but it was fragmented in stages, but yet, you know, another win for them. No major injury concerns so far.
I suppose that's what you want from that game is to come out unscathed.
Well, the thing is, when you look at the temperature of the collisions and when you looked at the kind of tempo of the game, it was pretty much an average, you know, an average day at the office for the Boks. Nobody was really, you know, in test mode, but certainly an element of protecting themselves for what's to come, which is obviously going to be, you know, a ferocious kind of 3-weekend hit out for the Boks. But, you know, there were some solid performances there, and I think solid is the apt word. The fact that the halfbacks had time together, and, you know, nice to see Andre Pollard just look comfortable in that number 10 role, which probably highlighted later on in the game when Elton Yankees came in that, you know, maybe there's a huge onus on trying to get that position and the back at number 10, whether that Mornay stay. And I think I would be far more comfortable, you know, having him as the backup to Andre Pollard, and there wouldn't be Janchis at this moment. But I think that's, I'm telling every South African supporter what they already know, is that you don't really want to get, you know, an injury to Pollard at this moment in time, because I think that'll be critical for the cohesion and this kind of flow that the Boks want to create. But didn't learn too much about it, and I wasn't expecting to gain any revelations from that performance. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I think the big thing was Pollard. He got through 65 minutes. It's pretty much more than he's played. He had played for Montpellier. He had come on for a few cameos near the end of the season, 20 minutes, 25 minutes to protect him. There's such a difference in test class between him and who's ever next. And Mornay Steyn is a guy who's been there and done it before. So safe pair of hands to bring him in should Pollard not play. So I think they were very comfortable that Pollard got through that. Jacques Nienhaber said what the match did provide was a barometer straight up. This is where you are. So you can play each other at training 5 times a week. You may think you're at a certain level. He said, but it showed some players you kind of are quite there, and some players are still off the pace. And he said they've still got 3 or 4 weeks to fix it. Of that side that started, probably 6 will start in the first test if everyone is available. What I thought was significant, again, Frans Malherbe at tight head when he came on. A bit disappointed with Trevor. I always feel his conditioning is out. I mean, he offers so much. The guys who know the game in the dark arts, they rate him as the best scrummaging tight head, with Vincent Koch as well behind him. But I thought France put in a very good shift. The 2 hookers were as good as you expect them to be. Big difference again when you got Beast at loose head and Stephen Kitsoff coming on, with the greatest respect to Ox. He's no Stephen Kitsoff and he's no Beast. So there is a vulnerability in depth on the loose head. I know Thomas du Toit wasn't playing. The dynamic of the locks and loose forwards changes a lot now with we spoke about Lut having COVID. So there's a problem around him. Ergier Snyman is out because of what happened in Munster. Shenanigans have got out of hand. He's out of the Lions series. So if you've got a Mostert and an Ergier Snyman coming off the bench, and you're starting with an Eben and a Lut, it's very different when you're starting with a Peter Steph du Toit and an Eben, and potentially a Marvin Ori coming off the bench. So that will trouble them and concern them. And then the midfield, I thought, it's probably the poorest I've seen Francie Steyn play ever. And Jesse Creel, you know, it's been 5 years, and we're waiting for him to really show us that he's as good a rugby player as Scott is an athlete. And I mean, I know you've got you know, there's no one with better insights into midfield play. I mean, your thoughts of that combination and how important Deolandi now and Lukhanyo Am are to the Springboks in the midfield.
Well, they are critical. I mean, there's no doubt that they have to be the test starting midfield. If you go on Friday night's performance, an element of lack of focus, I think, from someone as experienced as Frans Steyn, his first kind of carry in the 25, he spilled the ball, and then the second one, he got ripped out. I mean, it's not what you expect from somebody who's been around a long time and knows that space, knows that craft. And as with Jesse Creel, as I say, I think we're still wondering, what is his best position, and is that 15, 13, or maybe neither? Because he's clearly a very gifted rugby athlete, but when it comes to game craft, I just see that there's an element of a weakness, and I would, you'd certainly be seeing Gatland kind of praising him for selection, because that would be ideal from a Lions perspective to target someone in that outside channel that is clearly gifted, but just looking out of sorts.
Yeah, and if you look at the back three as well, so Billy will be there, and you could even hear his instructions all night with no crowds at Loftus. We'll have a Colby if they fit and Mpimpi on the wings, which makes a huge difference. If those two centres are back, huge difference. Pollard back and Faf de Klerk. So it's a very different team that runs out in terms of the backs. What I found was significant was I just thought Jasper Visser made a huge impact physically when he came on that you don't see with Kwagga. And I was kind of willing Kwagga to get into this game, but it was the kind of game that didn't allow for his skill set.
It was always going to be a bit of a niggly game, though, with playing Georgia.
Well, I mean, one of the tweets that made me laugh the most was halftime score: Springboks 19, Boksburg Police 9. So I mean, those Georgians are just big and not the easiest on the eye. But I think they gave them that good physical workup. But it also showed us, again, they look like a team that hadn't played for 20 months. And they will be better off for this next test match. But it will certainly give Gatland a lot more, not that he lacks confidence, but a lot more comfort to see that those struggles were there, and that match 23 will definitely not be there. They played in the World Cup final in that 6-2 split.
Yeah, and listen, I go back to Kwagga Smith. I don't think number 8 is his position. I really don't, because I think he's such a great kind of forager around the periphery in that. Visa, he's been on form all year for the Tigers. He's in a hot streak. You can see that there's a desire and there's an application from his perspective, being exiled in the UK, coming back, looked every inch a Springbok. And unlike his dynamism, either as a starter, but certainly coming off the bench as an impact player, is going to be a key factor for the selection.
He didn't look out of place in that jersey.
Oh, no way.
And even though it's Georgia and he's played tougher matches in the Premiership, but the mentality that you're now playing for your national team, he just looked comfortable when he came into the mix. And having someone with that kind of carry also frees up a Peter Steph de Toy, who I just thought, that guy can just play.
But his impact, his acceleration, his first 3 steps. Watch his first 3 steps, whether they are in forward motion or side to side, just to get on an edge of a defender. And his physical impact carries him beyond 2-3 meters. When you can get a 3 meter quick ruck, and the ball gets transferred from 9 to 10, that's that space, that level of conversion, in presenting the ball quickly and creating quick ball, which Visa can do, is a game changer in Test football. So a big consideration for him going forward.
So what can we take out of looking at the Bok performance? If you would rate it out of 10, what would you rate it?
A comfortable 5, a liberal 6. We're not quite at a 6. I think they would have looked at the head-out session. The South Africans used to call it a good old copper stump. The 8 guys go against each other for 40 minutes and mentally are there in terms of the intensity they'll get from the Lions at the close contacts. Yeah. I enjoyed the cameo of Herschel Jantjies. I like Kobus Reiner. He's a good player. He does well in the Northern Hemisphere. But I think there's Faf 1, and Herschel showed that he is that guy who comes on. He just seems to be in the right place at the right time. He's got that gap to score from 5 meters, and I thought his service was very quick. So
his service has always been quick, though, hasn't it?
Yeah. So I think, again, it showed us who's 1 and who's 2 in that setup.
Yeah, and I think one of his great skill sets is the fact that he's at the ball. There is like literally a quarter of a second. He's at the base of the ruck. He is there to get that ball out there and move it. Mr. Perpetual Motion. You're going to need that in Test football as a backup to Faf, who is obviously the tactical a master there, and someone who does create tempo. But I think Herschel Yankees is
And
going to
I think his game has improved fast with being in the UK.
Oh, he's a lot better player from when he left here 3 years ago.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think his game craft has sharpened as well, because he can pick up the tempo, he can slow it down. He's very much kind of the conductor there, and in the right position to do that, because that's exactly what makes him the threat. Is not only the fact that he's small, diminutive, but very powerful around the rucks. Also runs great offlines, which brings defences onto him. Got that beautiful left hand, right hand delivery. But the fact that he's just right in the middle of it,
And he's disruptive. Eh?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I mean, you take that semi-final, I think Jake Ball was that close from knocking him out, but that would have been Wales down to 14. So he does get under their skins. And he certainly doesn't shy away from any contact. So
No.
so again, when we spoke earlier, if you look at the back line, Pollard getting through 65 minutes, that's the plus. Fassi getting a test match, he's played that one. He's going to be your backup in the back three that would potentially come in. I didn't think Speckman did himself any favours. The midfield showed that they're the second choice midfield at the moment, and I thought Yankees over Reinach in terms of 2 and 3. Forwards, from my side, Visser really did his cause good. Quacher, again, it would depend on the way they want to play, which I can't see them wanting to play too much football against the Lions. Their biggest concern is locks. I would say, from having potentially the best locking stocks in world rugby. Eben went off with a rib injury. They don't know how serious it is. We could be looking at the Lions locks and just thinking, wow, wish we had one or two of you guys in our setup. So,
but it's the boiler house, Mark, isn't it? And I asked the question on our last show about the kind of depth in the front row from a Bok perspective, and you clearly articulated the nuances of that depth, which gave me comfort, I'm sure you. But it is that's backup. The two big boiler house locks that create pressure, are a nuisance. Provide decent production, and also a level of intimidation. So if there are cracks emerge in there, then it clearly creates a little bit of discomfort. And uncertainty in the Bok management about what is the best 5 to get out there, because there's definitely balance in 6, 7, and 8. You just need to find it. And like Quacker Smith, clearly one of the big characteristics of him is that he's a potential great disruptor, someone who can slow the play of the ball down, slow the ruck down. Which, and if you do that in Test match football and you can take heat off it, it does put the onus and the advantage on the defending team that control the pace of the game, and that's what they're going to want to do with the Lions, is to deprive them and starve them of quick play the ball ruck.
I think if you look, there was good realism to the test, Kev, where first kickoff we missed it, first scrum we conceded. You've been out of the game for 20 months and it shows, and they gradually kind of got into the game. They never looked troubled. Georgia never looked like we were ever going to score a try. So they would say we conceded 3 penalties in terms of the scoreboard. We gave away 12. So discipline obviously was an issue. Scored 6 tries, scored them at will. I thought it was a good hit out against the B team that you get on a Tuesday preparing for a game. And the one thing about the South African psyche is we've traditionally never been a side that puts away poor sides like the All Blacks do by 80 or 90. We would knock over Romania 20 points to 8 in 95 and then go beat the All Blacks in a final. So I know they will go up several notches when it comes to just knowing it's the Lions on the other side of the line, and it's the first of 3 test matches. So
I agree with it totally. The Boks, like most great sides, they're only as good as the opposition, and they need to be pushed. They need to be put under the stress test. They need to be pressurized. They need to feel intimidated, for them to exude what is so passionate about the rugby game and the way that they can play, and that needs to come out. And whether they get a step closer in the next game against Georgia, we don't know. So they'll be salivating at this moment in time. Well, they'll be concerned about maybe health matters and so on of certain positions. But I think on paper, as you say, the 23 that is the closest to the World Cup winning team is certainly by far the most capable, most talented, and most dynamic to go into this Test series.
Sorry, Kev. I also thought that what showed was very interesting was the tempo that the overseas-based Boks played at. Just naturally, they were that step faster.
Yeah, on edge.
Than what we've seen in our domestic game. And speaking to our domestic coaches as well, they said there was a noticeable drop-off. And it could be you're playing against your brother, you're playing against your mate every weekend. And this time of the year, normally we would have been playing against the Crusaders and playing against all those New Zealand teams. We haven't been playing against them, and there's going to be a drop-off. So thank God we got 20 of the squad is being based overseas, and they've been playing some very good rugby for the last 18 months.
Thank God. Let's end the segment with you said that there was going to be 3-0. Has you seen anything to change that perception?
No, I'm still backing the Boks to be good enough to win 3-0 and win the series 3-0. But I've always said there's not going to be much in the Test match. There'll be a score in every Test match. But I still believe the Boks at home, as world champions with the core of that squad, should be good enough and should be the favourites to win each Test match, considering they take the strongest team in. If they win the series at 2-0, it changes that third one. But to win the series, definitely at the moment, nothing has changed from what I saw in Georgia. What I saw against Georgia was there's the B team, and we know that half the A team is sitting in the stands.
Okay, well, thanks for that, and thanks, Scott, for coming in. And there you have it, folks. Mark's still saying 3-0. I'm not so sure anymore, but we'll chat about that later.